Hey everybody, I'm so excited to be here today on the Bold Creatives Collective podcast. I am talking today, or actually, you know what? We get to talk today with a friend of mine that I know from long ago, Stephanie Yuhas, who is coming to us live with her wine glass full of coffee um, from Mexico. Stephanie, I'm so excited to see you. It has been way too long, and I've been following your journey over the past couple of years, and I'm excited to chat with you about it today.
I am so excited to reconnect with you too, TJ.
Thank you. Can you give us all an idea of who you are, what you're about, and then we can have some fun in the conversation?
Absolutely. Well, my name is Stephanie Yuhas. I'm a writer, producer, and creative weirdo. I am actually now following in the footsteps of my Eastern European Transylvanian traveler roots, and I'm a digital nomad. So instead of going around in a Romani wagon with a compass, now I take Uber and have Google Maps. I originally grew up in Jersey, but I went to UArts in Philadelphia where I studied animation. I have a BFA in animation, and I helped co-found Cinevore Studios and Crystalline Studios, both production companies based out of Philadelphia, as well as Project 21, a 501c3 nonprofit with the epic mission to exhibit, promote, inspire, and connect creatives. And now I am running a creative consulting firm called Permission Slip, based out of Los Angeles, even though I am based all over the world, sort of where the
Yeah.
flight deals and opportunities take me. And what my real goal is to help infuse creativity into other people's projects while I myself make my own creative projects.
Yeah.
I mostly work in film and TV, and I have sold 3 original TV series and helped reboot Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Wow, all of that, and you're living in beautiful Mexico, which is just amazing, right? So,
Well,
Stephanie,
I'm visiting Mexico. I live
visiting, yes.
nowhere, darling. I have
Yeah.
lived nowhere, darling.
And that is awesome. Living nowhere, visiting Mexico, and getting to really create some amazing work and projects. And it sounds like help other creatives do the same at the same time. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that's what I want to talk a little bit about with you today, because when I first met you, I think, I don't know, oh my God, like probably like 10 years ago or something. I remember I was working at UArts after we both had graduated from UArts, and we were sitting
Right.
in that coffee shop on Pine Street, 13th and Pine, last drop. We
Yeah.
were sitting there and you were just talking to me about being a young creative at the time, trying to pitch,
At the time.
pitch. I know. Well, see, I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting so old and, all of this stuff. But yeah, 10 years ago or something like that. And you were just talking about getting ready to pitch some of your early stuff to some of these production companies, and you were even then going back to UArts and talking to students about what it's like to get out there and put yourself out there and take risks. And now here we are all these years later, and you're still taking risks
Oh
and
yeah.
living a life, developing or building a life that is sustainable as an artist, which I think is the dream of so many people who, start on similar journeys as us. And I would love for you to talk about how you've managed to build that sustainable artistic career, while living all of the ups and downs and roller coaster experiences of life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I can't believe it was 10 years ago. Back when I didn't have knee pain.
Hey, yeah,
Oh
you
my
and me
God.
both.
Oh my God. Well, for me, it started off sort of unconventionally because I have an immigrant family, and so we grew up economically disadvantaged. So I didn't have like cable TV or lots of toys and things like that. So I
Yeah.
drew as sort of an outlet. And so then when my family was down on their luck, I didn't get allowance or anything like that. I would sell my artwork, basically knock off Disney characters and comic book characters on the playground, right? So I was like that nerdy kid taking the bullies' lunch money, right?
Yeah.
And so it started honestly out of hunger and necessity. And so I just kind of followed through and I went from illustration to like, most people when they're 17, 18 years old, they're thinking about, oh, I want to get a car and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And I'm sitting there registering my first LLC, Shiny Grape Studios, because my little independent company that started with like, literally crayon drawings went to okay, now I saved up for colored pencils. Okay, like now I'm winning a bunch of awards and I'm selling stuff. And then but also at the same time, I've always been a storyteller, so I was starting to get gigs writing for the local newspaper.
Yeah.
I had my own column. Then I ended up in a band and booking gigs there, and it was just always like basically for advice of how to make a life as a sustainable life as an artist is you just tell people what kind of art you do. Just tell everyone. Was by saying I'm a professional artist, I
Yeah.
became one like
Right.
middle school, right? And so the thing is that since I'm a multidisciplinary creative, I ended up, flexing based on like a lot of opportunities,
Right.
especially since I like working with other people. So yeah, I ended up, it was actually funny too. Going to UArts actually gave me a little bit of a pay cut because I was selling art, and then at that point, like I don't know, like crazy palm tree lamps that I was making with my ex-boyfriend. He would do the like the electricity in it, but I would like make them, in the
Right.
kiln and all that
Right.
stuff. But going to art school, everybody was artists. And
Yeah.
I'm like, crap, like now I can't sell it because all y'all are too dang talented. So that's when I had to learn to surround myself with people who are different from me, which is
Right.
really, that was really uncomfortable. So you were saying earlier that I help creative people. Actually, these days I'm helping a lot of people who are not creative at all
Okay.
unlock their creativity. These logical
Wow.
minded folks who are facing like burnout, maybe working at Google, or just, you know, need are not trying to sell TV shows like I do. They're just trying to get into the habit of drawing every
Oh
single
yeah.
week, just as catharsis, knowing like for me, making a sustainable life as an artist doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be rich or have to be famous. It's
Right.
okay to have it as a side hustle. It's okay to have it as a passion.
Right.
If we keep pushing out these goals of like I'm not an artist until like I have my own gallery show or I
Right.
see my name in the glowing
Right.
rectangle of streaming whatever, then you're not going to enjoy the journey. You're not going to enjoy the
It's going to
process.
become an obligation almost, right? And when we
Yes.
see and when we experience things as obligations, right, the motivation to do it, right, or to explore it goes away, decreases, right? Because it's just something that we have to do. And what I'm hearing you say is that it shouldn't be an obligation, right? It should be something that is, a passion that you want to do it. You don't have to if you don't want to, or if it's not happening for you right now to become, professionally successful air quotes person, that's okay, but pursue your creativity so that you can thrive in your life, right? You're working with people on occasion, it sounds like, who are just like burning out, but when they tap into their creativity, they're able to come back alive again and probably
Yes.
live into their life so much better.
Well, having creativity as a part of your life just makes you a more well-rounded person. I mean, a lot of times I've done quite a bit of improv, and I've just noticed that improv is for everyone because it helps you learn how to be a better communicator and respond to the person in front of you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you need to get your own Netflix special, and I don't
Right.
necessarily mean that you shouldn't do anything you don't want to do because I got to tell you, like when you do service work you do a lot of stuff that you don't want to do. But
Yeah.
I think finding that balance of what does sustainable mean to you. So for me, sustainable meant I need to make money from my art. Period.
Right.
I don't have a net. I don't have a secret day job. I don't have a trust fund. I don't
Right.
have any of that. And that has
Right.
been from day one. And so my personal struggle has been boundaries because a lot of people will hear, oh my God, Steph, you're a writer, or you know how to draw, or you know how to do this. Can you please make wedding invitations for me, or cancer
Right.
party, or like my cousin's sister's influencer dog really wants to pick your brain. And I
Right.
have to say, right, like, and they look at it like I'm giving you an opportunity to make
Mhm.
art. This is what you want. And I have to say, I can help. Here's my rate sheet.
Yeah.
And that I know sounds crazy, but it has been so hard. And especially as a woman, because I previously had a production partner who was male, and he did not run into the issues of billing in the way that I have. And it has been frustrating. And I've even
Yeah.
noticed now that I have a Hollywood representation, I'm repped by Zero Gravity. People pay my invoices pretty fast because I have a mean Hollywood person who's like, hey, you have to pay Stephanie for her scripts,
Right.
right?
Right.
But the amount of like emotional labor that I have to do to explain to people, like, if you want to pick my brain, that costs money because you're
Yes.
taking away from my own creative projects. They're like, but you're so nice. And almost all of the women
Right.
who I talk to have run into the same thing,
I'm
and not
sure.
just in creativity, in psychology, in
Yeah.
consulting. And it's just a unique issue that I've been finding that we need to, as a society, work through, guys.
Figure it the hell out. We do. I mean, seriously. I mean, like, yeah, I can relate on the other side because, you know, I am a white guy, right? And so people pretty much do what I ask and do what I say, right? Because I have this privilege, apparently, right? That is just bonkers to me that my the people that work with me or my colleagues who happen to be women run into these roadblocks all of the time, similar to what you're talking about, which is like people avoid them. They don't pay their invoices quickly. They have to like really track them down. And I'm like, I don't have these problems. And so when I hear people who are just different than me, right? I'm like, man, I am really in this white guy silo, like living my good life when my friends are out there like really working that much harder to just, survive and eat because they're a woman. Like
And I
it's
think
just
people don't
unacceptable.
realize the bias. I don't think people realize the bias. And most of the time, it's not malicious. Like most
Right.
of the interactions, at least for me, especially that right now I'm focusing up on my niche that, I write um, poignant comedy basically, and I have opportunities. Like I had just had a meeting with NBC yesterday. I just booked a meeting with Stars. My next meeting is with Paramount Plus.
Right.
Like I have crazy opportunities. So
Yeah.
when people hear about this, they think that they're presenting me opportunities by coming up to me and saying, Stephanie, I have an idea for you. It's going to make you $1 million.
Right.
Because there's this like legend that's going around of like that's all you need is an idea, and that's hilarious. And I would tell everyone, go on to Shark Tank and talk to those folks about it, because it's not just the arts, it's inventors or whatever. It is not just about idea, it's execution and it's reputation. And how I've been
Right.
explaining it to people is, listen, you could say your idea to me. I was like, first off, you're going to create a legal problem for me, because if I'm working on something like that, then I've got to prove to you that I've been in development for 7 years
Right.
of your idea of, Stephanie, you should write about your childhood. Yeah, no, yes, obviously, write what you know. But second, it's sort of like when I get an invitation to come into Netflix, it's, like they're inviting me because a producer, or like my former mentor at Netflix, Megan, like someone is saying like, we want Stephanie in. and they go through my bio like I went through when I came onto the call,
Right.
and they're and I can't then say, okay guys, I have an idea for you. This dude who I met at the bar, oh my god, it's a workplace comedy because his coworkers are so fucking funny. Oh my god, you're not going to believe it. I'm going to get kicked out of there.
Right.
They are, it's taken me 20 years to get the reputation and make the
Yep.
sales. And,
Yeah.
and it's crazy because people are like, oh, but what if if anything I've written ends up in the glowing rectangle, I will surely do the dance of joy, but doesn't mean I'm not working. And a
Right.
lot of other creators are having this problem, and it's affecting their lives because you can't even go to Thanksgiving dinner without like, drunk, Billie Jean being like,
I
oh
have
my
the best
God, the
idea for
funniest
you.
thing happened. I have the best idea. And then like, you can have that, you can keep that. And it's kind of funny to a certain point
Until it's not.
until it's not. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
people are so well-meaning, aren't they?
Yes, no, totally. And that's what, yes, yes.
But yeah, but what you're saying is really true. Like there's so much more that goes into it than just the idea. Um, the people that some of the people that I work with, young emerging or rising artists who are trying to really figure out what the hell it is they do, who it is they are, and how to get going. They're like, man, like I get so much feedback that my work is awesome, I'm so talented, like I could have this, I could have that, but why aren't I getting this and that, right? Look at this work, look at this wonderful work. And I'm like, yeah, your work is wonderful. And then I talk about things similar to what you were talking about, which is, it is other things besides just being a talented craftsperson, right?
Yeah,
Or a
yeah.
technician. Um, what would you say is, out of some of the things that you've listed there, right? Execution, network, or reputation. Like, what would you say are some of the things that some of these younger people should be really focusing on if they've got the skill sets down in terms of their artwork already?
I think it's actually banishing one thought. No one is coming to save you. You can't just sit here and like make amazing art in your studio apartment and then someone is going to Kool-Aid man through,
The brick
through your
wall just like come
door.
through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I love the mise en scène in the last scene, editor, right? You and it sucks because everything is important. Everything.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I've run into people who have giant networks, over 1 million Facebook followers, but they don't have relationships with them. So for me, actually, the most important thing, like people always say, it's who you know.
Yeah.
And that sounds that I heard that when I was 20, and that made me despondent because I'm like, I don't know anybody. Like, who do I know? My 100-year-old grandma, like she's not going to get me a TV show, right?
Right.
I'm not a fancy Hollywood person, but it's your relationships. So the people who you're going to school with, if you are in your exact, like basically you find the exact niche that makes you so freaking happy and get even like, oh no, I don't just want to be in the arts. I want to be in animation. And I
Right.
specifically want to be in
Right.
adult primetime animation, right? That's how niche. And then I'm like, where are those assholes? Where are they? And it doesn't matter that none of us like are famous or influential because you you know when you make it, um everybody wants to jump into your limousine, but you remember who rode the bus with you. And that's not
Right.
my quote, I'm pretty sure that's Oprah, but I think about that a lot.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
about now that I'm 20 years in, on my career, I'm like, right, who are the people who I'm working with? The people who were laughing about how, like, remember when we would dig through the couch cushions at UART so we
Right.
could get 75 cents for a
Right.
soda?
Right.
And it was growing together rather than reaching out on Twitter for Kim Kardashian to save us, right? Here's the thing. We are now in the world. Sometimes that shit works though. So
Sure.
like, don't like not reach out to
Right.
Ms. King, because I've had a lot of my stuff go viral because someone who's influential,
Picked it
like
up.
it,
Yeah.
someone referred it and then they retweeted it, and I'm like, why do I have 1,000 new emails, right? But it's the
Yeah.
multifaceted attack of, okay, I'm going to put in 10,000 hours to become an expert in my field of the exact niche
Right.
lovely thing that I like. Or like I should be talking like a Renaissance woman. I don't do that. I diversify, but
Yeah.
it's still within the arts.
Right.
To look at who you vibe with and who you actually enjoy creating with, or and that doesn't mean necessarily collaboration, because sometimes it's making art, it's like alone but together,
Yeah.
has been profound, and it's also great for co-working and accountability, right? And
Yeah.
then just look at what are the opportunities and what's your end goal. What I've really found is having like, what's your big dream, your shoot for the moon dream, right? So mine, I came up with when I was a little kid. I said, I was like somewhere between kindergarten and first grade, I was obsessed with the Little Mermaid, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, one day I want to make something that makes other kids as happy as I am right now watching The Little Mermaid, and I will see someone wearing that character for Halloween. That's specific. And I am still on that journey. When it happens, when I see one of my characters come to fruition and I see kids
Yeah.
dressed in Halloween costumes as my character, I will explode into a ball of confetti and go back to
So
the
wherever
era where I came, right?
right.
That specific. And then it's like, all right, well, then how do I break that down into smaller achievable goals?
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
so minute that you want to get started immediately to motivate yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
happens, like the paper is magic. Write it
Right.
down of like what you want to do. And it doesn't necessarily, like I said, have to be, I want my own Netflix special. It
Right.
could literally be like, you know what? I don't need to get paid for this. I need stability. So I want to have a normal day job, but I want to be able to do stand up comedy just for fun on the weekends, or I want to do improv with my kids. These are
Right.
all valid choices.
Sure. They're all valid choices. And I'm thinking about some of the stuff you've Stephanie, you have just like given like so many different directions that I would love to go in, and we could have like all of these so many different conversations about it. One of the things that I heard you say just towards the end there was like pinging my brain about like goal setting and
Mm-hmm.
and a goal that many people might get kind of caught up in is, okay, the thing that I'm shooting for is the Netflix special, right?
Okay.
But I think that sometimes that is like not necessarily it's an achievable goal for a lot of people or for some people, but it's not really the goal that's going to necessarily keep you motivated all the time, right? Like I heard you say something about um smaller achievable goals, right? Things
Yes.
that
Yes.
kind of, and if at the end of the line it is something like a special or some iteration of that, that's awesome and that's wonderful. But the smaller pieces of your process to getting there and focusing on those, I think, are the powerful pieces, right?
And that's what keeps you motivated. And part of motivation is the drug addiction of the dopamine hit. What's giving you dopamine hits? Is it um, putting that doodle that you made on Facebook and getting likes? Is it
Right.
getting, every month, something out for First Friday? Like, what is it? And like, literally, like,
Right.
listen to your body. Like, what is bringing you joy? What is giving you? Because, we're all addicts, right? And so some people are spending all their time, getting loaded on the weekends. Like my addiction is for me, just like creating. And for me, the message is more important than the medium. And I
Right.
found that once I realized, wait, holy crap, the process is actually what I enjoy,
Yeah.
and the hopeful potential. I realized, what, I stopped going after that whole idea of making it. And I realized I made it years ago. I made it when I said, you know what? I'm not going to commit to an arranged marriage. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to get a scholarship to UArts. And you know, went to college.
Yeah.
And, my mom, I think, has about an eighth grade education, so
Yeah.
I'm so thankful that she worked hard to like get us to this country so I could have that opportunity. I'm making it when I, overcome, social anxiety by taking acting classes so I could do things
Right.
like make eye contact, right? We're making it every day. And I think if you continue to do things that scare you a little bit, um, that's making it, and that's what's going to actually motivate
Right.
you, because it will become a drug addiction,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're not going to just say someday. The other thing about motivation, which I meant to mention earlier, is, at least for me, like I have ADHD, so I have to have deadlines,
Hmm.
um, or else it's just not going to happen for me.
Yeah.
And I think this is pretty normal, even for folks who are not neurodiverse, that life can get in the way. So I have found that setting artificial deadlines does not work for me. I need real deadlines. So entering contests, film festivals, fellowships, like sometimes it's not about hoping to get the award at the end or the recognition. It's
Right.
just literally like this film festival that sounds like it would be fun to go to needs my submission by this date, so I have to finish it.
Right.
Like
It's an
that's why I
accountability
co-founded.
piece for you too, right? It's
Exactly.
setting like posting a flag of, I'm going to get there, right? I'm going to get there. I'm going to do something by this date, and that keeps you going, and not stalling out. That accountability piece is so important. And I not to
Especially
like,
with friends.
yeah, yeah. And you know what, not to like write your story for you, but when you were saying, I think I made it, or I know I made it, I was thinking in my head, she's gonna say, she made it as soon as she said when she was younger, when she was a kid, she was an artist, right?
Oh, okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. I will take that note. This is why I value working with editors. Yeah. I think yeah, I think I made it when I said I'm gonna do this for me
Yeah.
instead of other people, because I am not the type of creative who's just like, I have this oeuvre and this opus that I must share with the world, like, for me or whatever.
Yeah.
I like to make stuff for people because I'm helping. I'm very community oriented. I was not planning to draw sexy comic book characters. Those were commissions. That was service work, even though I was
Right.
in the fourth grade. So
Right.
I found that I stopped drawing pictures of the Little Mermaid and cave women and dinosaurs, which is what I did for me, because I started to feel guilty about, like, okay, well, if I can make money at this, I only should be doing things that make money.
Hmm.
And so it took a long time to come back to that. But I started to actually make it when I gave myself permission to start creating stuff just for me and
Yeah.
not worrying about, okay, like what's the network mandate right now at CBS, and I should be gearing towards that. And I honestly had to have my professor at UArts help me with this, Lowell Boston, because I was making stuff that would have been very commercially viable. Like I had said, he is my witness. I was working on something about like two fish in a fishbowl, but they kept on forgetting what they were doing, trying to escape a fishbowl. And he's like, "This is
Right.
exactly the scene from Finding Nemo, which wasn't out yet, but it was a teaser. You have to stop production because people are going to think you stole it." And then
Wow.
I was like, you know what we haven't seen in a really long time? Penguins. I should do something with penguins. And he was like, actually, you should do something really personal, about your family, because I hear you, like, that's what you talk about with your
Talk about.
friends, of like your crazy, kooky family. Why don't you do something with that? And I'm like, no one will want that. And he's like, do it for you. And I started to do it for me, honestly, as therapy,
Yeah.
because I couldn't afford a therapist at the time. And it's so funny because then, by the way, what became really successful during that time, freaking penguins, all the penguin movies were not out yet. So I am good at spotting trends, but what keeps like selling and as different derivations of my life story,
Yeah.
which I was just really writing for myself to be cathartic, and then eventually, made into a short film so I could pass
Right.
UArts.
Right.
But I didn't want to do it. I found like I didn't want to share it with others. Like I still find it a little bit embarrassing. And
Huh.
I'm like, hey, does anybody want to buy? I have a show about it's a dog, and he is just a stupid dog, but he thinks he's leading the first mission on Mars. It's called Mars Rover. Let's print money, guys. Mars Rover, right? And
Right.
everyone's like, yeah, we like it. And it's you know what? That's been optioned a couple times. It even had won an RFP at Nick International. But the projects that keep going, the things that I get invited to instead of reaching out, is
Yeah.
all about my personal story.
Wow. Yeah.
And every time it kills me to have to tell it because I find it painfully embarrassing. And I have asked myself, why? Why do people want this? Is because my initial intent was for me
For you.
and not to like make a commercial success.
Yeah.
And
It's
for me,
authentic. It's
that's the
genuine.
making it. Yeah. So part of like, I think really making it, because I know people now, I can't believe I'm saying this, but like I know people who are legitimately like have over $100 million, are celebrities, their household names. And I got to tell you, and again, we're not friends. I know them. That's different. I can't invite them to your birthday party, kids.
Right.
Um, I got to tell you, some of the most miserable sons of bitches I ever met. Oh, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Why not? We'll make it work.
Okay. Sorry. I'm
That's
not,
good.
I'm not a professional. I'm not a professional. And I'm like, why? You seem like you have everything. You made it. And they said, I didn't make it. I didn't make it because I don't have an Oscar, I don't have this or whatever. So I'm watching these people who can buy and sell all of my like they could buy the gallery that I
Right.
volunteer at right now, but they're constantly reaching out for that next goalpost and not like celebrating the good meetings,
Yeah.
celebrating, like their achievements. And just truly unhappiness and falling into drugs, alcohol. And
Yeah.
it's sad to watch.
Kills the
I'm
joy.
seeing now
The joy.
I see how the monetization of the arts
Yeah.
sometimes can destroy artists. These are not bad people. These are normal people who we've put on pedestals and now are holding to a standard
Yeah.
over this idea of making it that they like you. It's something personal for you. You decide when you make it, and you can decide that you made it freaking today
Yeah.
because maybe you have an illness, and just to get out of your freaking bed and brush your hair today is all you can do. That's all the spoons you have for. You made it, baby, and you've been sitting in bed and you've been thinking about a poem. It doesn't matter that it didn't trend on Reddit. You're doing it. It's not a race. Give yourself
Right.
permission to celebrate that you're
Wow.
making it, baby.
Wow. That is so powerful for people to just hear that validation, hear that affirmation that they can decide that they're making it, right? They can
Yeah.
decide that they're making it. That is so, so powerful. Um, this is going to be edited, so I'm just trying to think what I'm gonna do. Could end it there,
Okay.
or
I mean, yeah, whatever like sound bites you need. Again, I am a meandering
yeah, no, this is perfect.
person. So
So so okay, so let's I'm gonna take it. So okay, so you are now in this world, right? You've decided that you've made it. You've done so many different things. You're doing so many great things, right? All that stuff. But you've gone through this whole period recently over the past couple of years where the stuff that you've built, or that you built with, a creative partner and also a partner, right?
yeah, yeah,
Started to come apart, and you've had to make some
yeah.
really significant decisions, right, to let some of that stuff go. And
Hmm.
you and I were talking before we started recording today about how from that grief and from that letting go, right, some really powerful moments of making have started to happen for you. And I guess I would love for our listeners to hear a little bit about how going through a whole hell of a grief process can actually turn out okay, right? And you can continue growing from that experience, even if it's like letting go or making sure your children that you've birthed and have seen grow up are okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to think if we can, for just for the sake of the edit,
Yeah,
because it's like so much of what you just said is like referencing things that people haven't heard. So I
yeah,
wonder if like the most more concise way to answer that question is, I don't know how much you want to share, but I know that you became a digital nomad because you had a major life change.
sure.
Do you want to tell our listeners like what is it
Okay.
like to, have a second act, or more in
Okay.
your
Yeah.
words? But yeah, yeah,
Let
yeah,
me
yeah,
phrase it
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And then
Yeah.
I can touch that. Yeah,
Go.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Stephanie, like, I know that, over the past little while, you have, like you were saying at the beginning, become a digital nomad where you're moving all around and you're settling and visiting Mexico right now. Um, but that came because of a significant change in your life, both creatively and personally. And I would love to hear you talk a little bit about what that experience has been like for you, and how you have seen it either serve your creative work or cause it challenges. Can you give us a little bit of an
Ab-
idea of what this has been like for you?
Absolutely. Yeah. My life as I knew it completely changed. August 2021. I found out that my husband slash production partner, and then best friend slash creative partner had fallen in love. And that was devastating. Also, that same week, someone who I thought was, I looked at as my soul brother, passed away.
Wow.
And then that same week, someone who was a patient of mine, I did a lot of volunteering during the pandemic
Yeah.
for immunocompromised people since we were under full quarantine.
Yeah.
She passed away as
Wow.
well.
Wow.
So I experienced a level of grief that uh, gave me health problems. There was like a
Wow.
point where I started to get a stutter. I didn't know it could happen. That like you've heard of like a broken heart, like like screaming to the sky, Wolverine Gene, right? But I didn't know the sensation is actually like physical pain, heart being
Yeah.
broken, like
Yeah.
couldn't walk level of grief. And there were other complications with that.
Right.
Um, and so my path to be a digital nomad was not my choice. It was basically of, will I accept the new normal, right? Because you know, these are not bad people. These were my creative partners, and we were looking at it as like we've created a lot together.
Yeah.
What do we do to protect our babies, especially because, I was moving forward in production on a lot of stuff, and what networks don't want is a scandal. So
Right.
having to so we had to so the way I compartmentalized it was almost like these two people who I love a lot passed away, so I could give away some of the resentment that came from that. And I had to look at,
Wow.
how do we do with these two new people who are in my life, and divide the custody over the creative projects, and who, and like how can the babies thrive, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm really thankful to have like logic, that they're, that my ex-husband is a logical, as far as far as I know, ethical person who hasn't been fighting, and we really really talked about it. And it was absolutely one of the strangest experiences I've ever had in my life. But for me, I needed a clean break, so I left behind my production company, all the equipment, my office, my nonprofit, my home, most of my worldly possessions, my best friend, my husband, and
Yeah.
creative partners, and then had to grieve the loss of friends. And and like the first thing I did, I know it sounds really weird, is I started a Patreon.
Hmm.
And it's called Permission Slip. And I knew like immediately, like within the first 24 hours, I founded my own company, because I knew I need a place to put these
Yeah.
things. And then I don't know what this is yet. I don't need to have the branding and the mission and everything down today, because I'm
Right.
grief stricken and I'm crawling around the house.
Right.
I have to save the babies, right? And looking at it now, I'm like, I'm really glad that we had such a solid foundation of a relationship,
Right.
that we were able to like really do this. And now we can all be free, to create and like hopefully, clap for each other. It was just a
Right.
terrible thing that happened.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I went with my gut. Like the first thing that happened once I found out, I wrote myself notes, and just going with your intuition is very important. I said, congratulations, you're not insane, because I was suspicious. Go see the world. Um, and maybe have a lover in every port. I don't know. We put that one to the side. But I just said, write yourself a permission slip to
Right.
create without abandon,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And it's taken a while because I create based on my real life. And I was so freaked out, TJ, of like, what do we do? What do we do with the intellectual property and all the stuff that's pending? And what it really took was my manager, Joe at Zero Gravity, to take me to the side, and he said, I don't want to worry. I don't want you to worry about this too much. You're
Yeah.
not going to believe me today, but what happens now, the work that you create from this raw, vulnerable place, is going to be the greatest work you've ever created. And that has turned out to be true. So I'm a year. It's been
Yes.
a year since I took a one-way ticket to Mexico, thinking that I was going to go on vacation, a 28-day emotional rehab, if you will,
Yeah.
because I needed someone to take care of me
Yeah.
because I was not okay. So the Riu Palace Peninsula took care of me, like, and it was not about getting like effed or effed up, right? Like the
Right.
stereotype of being an
Right.
all-inclusive resort. It was waking up every morning and saying, okay, what does Stephanie want to do today?
Wow. Yeah.
Stephanie, the individual person, not the collaborative group artist. And so coming back to self, is what I had to do to get to this next level of creativity. And yeah, becoming a digital nomad, it's not like that's what like popped in my head. It was basically taking life's lemons and turning them into lemon margaritas, because I realized,
Right.
what's the point of like why was I living at an all-inclusive resort? It was literally cheaper to live there than getting the worst studio apartment by myself in Los Angeles or New York City.
That's
And I
bonkers.
know that
Yeah.
sounds crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, I have about a year's worth of news stories um coming from that. And you know, potential opportunities that people want me to tell that. And I don't have to tell a bitter story about how it
Right.
fell apart. It's I'm choosing to write the story about how I've built something completely different and beautiful. Um, I
And true and
forget your
authentic
original
to yourself.
question. Yeah, yeah. And I think that part of being an artist is taking like some of the punches that we get in life and saying like, okay, how do I get this out of my body?
Yeah.
Whether it sells is not important. I needed, like right now, I just have a bazillion chapters that I don't know if I'll ever publish, because I wanted to just I call it the diarrhea draft, when you just need to get out
Get
all
it
the
out.
emotions
Yeah.
and give yourself permission. And then you have to be in a certain mindset to like mine, okay, what is this? What am I trying to actually say here? And what's like the actual message and the lesson here? And so painters do this too. It's just like, I got to get this out. Like
Yeah.
when you look at like the underpainting versus
Right.
what's on top, it's very different. You have to let yourself do it. And I'm telling you, it heals your soul. Like art and creativity has saved my life, because I could have gone down a very, very dark path. Because that's what people were offering me. They were like, you know, like this thing happened to you. You got to do revenge. You got to, the best way to
Right.
get
They
over
give you
someone is
all.
under someone else. I've never been offered drugs so much in my entire life.
Right.
They just like, and what I was hearing is people saying, "Oh my God, you're injured, numb out. Here are numbing agents."
Right.
And no,
No,
like
because that was gonna
go through it.
kill yeah. It's so important to go through it, even though it's so fucking painful to go through it. But on the other side, we see uh that creative energy just really shining through. Stephanie, thank you so much for being so open and vulnerable with
Of
your
course.
sharing, but also leaving us with and giving us some really good takeaways for building an artistic life that is authentic and genuine, and full of self-permission,
Yes.
to be the artist, to be the creative that you want to be. And so I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, TJ, for having me.
Sure.
Should I do any kind of like promo bug if like people want to get in touch,
Yes.
any
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of stuff?
Yeah. So really quickly, Stephanie, can you give everybody an idea of what you're working on and where people can find more out about the work that you are doing?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm on all the social media, so feel free to add me on the Facebook, the Instagram, the Twitter. I'm Stephanie Yuhas, StephanieYuhas. If people, if people want to reach out to me directly, I have a couple ways where we can
Cool.
kind of work together.
Yeah.
People can hire me. Actually, I'm offering a promotion of anybody who books through UTJ gets 10% off their consulting. So
Awesome.
if you want to, have me do anything from put my eyes on one of your projects versus, I am certified as a creative coach. I would be glad to talk to you. I usually advise 10-hour blocks. So just hire me as a consultant and I am here for you. But otherwise, honestly, the best way to get involved in my work directly, and if you want to hear more about the story of what it took, I initially started my campaign as TV or bust on my former production company, Cinevore, and I'm still on that mission, but under permission slip. And now it's really the story of a woman who rebuilt herself from the ashes, and it's
Yes.
raw and it's visceral. So you can see, advanced pages. You can actually weigh in on my work. You can weigh in on everything from what am I going to wear to my next pitch meeting. And that's honestly the best way to get involved in me. And that's on Patreon, and it's called Permission Slip. And I look forward to chatting with y'all.
I love it. Thank you so much for that offer on your consulting services, and also uh, guiding us to your Patreon. All of this information, everybody's going to be in the show notes so that you'll have access to that expediently. So you can reach out to Stephanie whenever you have a second. I really, really think that so many of you will benefit from connecting with her. So once again, everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Bold Creatives Collective podcast, and I'll see you next time.